one of the best decisions that you can make as a man is leaving your hometown. And let me explain why. You've probably heard this piece of advice loads, right? On social media, on reels, on the 10-second clip, maybe on a few of the YouTube videos. But I'm going to generally explain to you here as to why it's super important and why you need to do this before it's actually too late. Because it's better to do this sooner rather than later. Because look, if we look at all of the underperforming and average men on this planet, most of them, if we dissect them individually, case by case, most of them are still in their hometown right now. Maybe they're 25, maybe they're 30, maybe they're 50, right? And as a man, if you genuinely want to achieve greatness, by definition, that means that you need to change. You need to level up. You need to do something that is different than what you were doing for the first 18, 20 years of your life, right? Because I severely doubt that at 15 you were already where you wanted to be. I doubt that you were already around the type of men that are success hungry, ambitious, and also pursuing greatness, right? If you were, that's great. Don't leave your hometown. But I'm talking for pretty much everyone here, right? Which that isn't the case for. So you want to be able to, by extension, reinvent yourself, because to level up, you need to become a different person, essentially. You need to level up your mindset, your character traits, your communication skills, your confidence, your ability to sell. You need to you need to level up so many different areas of your life, which are, put simply, not impossible, because that term isn't necessarily the most accurate, but extremely hard to do in your hometown when you're surrounded by all your old friends, people that maybe you don't necessarily like, but you're kind of just forced to be around here and there because maybe you've got some friends in common, friends quote unquote, right? And maybe you're just surrounded by that whole environment of like people that ultimately know the version of you of like when you were 16 years old or 14 years old or 18 years old, right? Depending on how old you are. And those people, if they're not growth minded like you are watching this video, because I assume you are if you're watching this, they're not in a necessarily bad way. It's not always in a bad way, right? Like in a way where they're genuinely trying to hurt you, but subconsciously or consciously, they're gonna drag you down. They're gonna hold you from actually growing, because whether it's in the form of like laughing at you, right, when you try and grow as a man, and you start hitting the gym super consistently, or they see you on regular runs, through the town, and they're like, he's at it again, or whatever, and they kind of mock you for doing something that is different than what they're doing, and ultimately making something out of your life, because that they're just insecure and they hate the fact that they're not actually pursuing that, right? But again, they're not growth minded, and so whether it's like in a kind of mean or like mocking way where they actually just look at you and what you're doing and they laugh at you, or it's just in a way where, like, say you've got an old friend or a few old friends and they're just constantly inviting you to go to the pub, right, and have a few pints of beer, like nothing that like harms anyone on paper, right? But it does harm your goals, because if you stay stuck in these old habits, you are not going to achieve your full potential. And I can say that with full certainty, because that's so much time, and not only time, but also energy wasted on these like old habits that maybe you used to do when you were like 16, 18, whatever, but ultimately aren't going to serve you if you want to become a man that is great, a man that is actually fulfilling a greater purpose for not only yourself, but also for your loved ones, for the whole world, potentially, right? And so let me basically take my life as an example, right? I've been able to travel to many countries, approaching 40 countries now, over the last 4 years, essentially 4+ years since I've been in the online business space, online entrepreneurship space, whatever you want to call it. And it's done so much for me. I mean, I've grown so much in those last 4 years compared to, let's say like the 4 years prior to that, where I was kind of finishing studies around like my old friends and all that all the time. I have grown so much in these last 4 years, and a lot of it is due to just me being away from home, right? Like away from my old friends and even sometimes like family, right? Like not again in a bad way, but just being around your family all the time isn't necessarily the best thing for growth, right? If you let's take like the olden olden times as an example, right? Like a young man, say he's 18, 19, whatever, and like he's now becoming a man and all that. He needs to like prove himself, and he needs to prove to his family that he's actually a man, that he's capable to, I don't know, go out there, hunt and bring some food back for his family, or get out there and like complete a certain mission that will help the village or the family, whatever. He needs to go and do that to prove that he's a man. It's the same thing in today's day and age. Like, you need to go out there, travel, go to a completely different country or city and build up a new life, basically, for yourself. That's what I'm getting at. And by doing that, you're going to be able to reinvent yourself and essentially build up a whole new character for yourself as a man. You're not going to have the social pressure of like having to conform in all of these old habits, which ultimately you want to move away from, but you really can't move away from when you're hanging around, these old friends of yours, or just the old social circle that you've always known, because it's just that it's too much like social pressure, right? It's too hard for you to actually detach yourself from that stuff. And so by basically going to a place where you literally know nobody, like absolutely nobody, that's the best way to do it, I found, is great, because you have none of that social pressure. You will see generally, if you're like, say, 18, 19 watching this video right now, maybe you're even like 25 and you have been meaning to like leave your hometown because you know how much it's going to benefit you, but you just haven't yet because you're, I don't know, scared of certain things or whatever, or you fear the uncertainty, right? Which is what like literally most people fears. They fear uncertainty, but you've got to understand all growth and all greatness comes on the other side of uncertainty and discomfort. And so if you're a man who wants to like truly level up but hasn't yet made his move outside of his hometown and hasn't really rebuilt his character yet and reinvented yourself, you will see as soon as you do it, there will be so much like weight lifted off your shoulders, for the main reason that you don't have any more of that social pressure anymore, right? You don't need to be your old self, right? Like when I traveled alone to Bali for the first time, like, which was kind of the biggest, like my first big trip alone, and it was actually with another friend. I mean, I met another friend over there, one of my best friends, who's also very growth minded. So it's like it's not like you're going to a trip like on a lad's holiday, right, where you're just going to end up doing the same habits, even worse maybe, in a bloody Ibiza or whatever. No, it wasn't like that. It was like generally to kind of reinvent ourselves, myself and my friend, and that was transformational, put simply, because I literally knew no one over there apart from, of course, my friend, and I was able to just like cultivate so many character traits and so many different like mindset paradigm shifts, which were so important and which I still basically use to this day, which I would not have had if I just stayed stuck in my hometown and just, basically enjoyed the company of my old friends and the old social circle, right? Like, you just can't, it's impossible to have that time for yourself when you're constantly around like your old habits and doing the same shit that you've always been doing. How can you expect to level up if you constantly do the same stuff that you've been doing for the last X amount of years, right? You can't. You've got to, by definition, you've got to do something different to get to a different place. And one of the best ways to do that, I'm telling you, is generally just moving place, going to a different city, going to a different country. I challenge you right now to literally like plan this in detail if you haven't yet actually moved out of your hometown, because it's gonna be the one thing that generally allows you to truly level up as a man. You're gonna have like no social pressure to do what you've always wanted to do when it comes to your growth, when it comes to your mindset and doing certain things that like you just couldn't quite do in your hometown. And therefore, it's going to be a lot easier for you to actually become that new man, reinvent yourself, and therefore reap all of the rewards that you know you've been capable of doing, but you just haven't yet, because you've been essentially your potential has been suppressed by the lack of ambition that your hometown brings, right? Generally speaking, again, you can find the odd few people that are also growth minded in your hometown, but it's arguably not going to be enough, right? Because what great men do, and men that truly want to level up, is they surround themselves with other great men. And then you've got all of a sudden like these top 1%ers, right, which are all hanging around together, and that then catapults a big chunk of those 1%ers into the 0.1%ers, right? And then they find other 0.1%ers, and then so on and so forth. And so yes, even like at the top echelon of the world, right, this happens, right, where like if you're in the top 1% of men, right, there's some men which aren't going to be able to progress to the next level. It's still great compared to the average person, right? They're still living a great life compared to the average person, but just understand this process of leveling up and needing to find new social circles, new environments, new settings happens at every single level of life and every echelon of society. So it's the same with you. Like, it always starts from your hometown, really. Like, that's the first step. Leaving your hometown, going to a new place, reinventing yourself is going to be the first step towards you achieving greatness. And it all starts with you actually taking that leap of faith, going through the uncomfortable process of going to a completely new foreign territory and just trusting that everything will work out. Okay? And if you want a proper roadmap of how to actually reinvent yourself and level up and just cultivate the right mindset and just character traits, increase your charisma, confidence, communication skills, get really good with women, get really good at seduction, sales, persuasion, all of this stuff, then Masculinity Central, my male self-improvement group, my brotherhood, is the place to do that. You'll get my support, also all the support of other members, proper accountability, implementation exercises for you to actually take action on. And it is, bar none, the place to be if you're a young, ambitious man looking to level up right now. So I'll catch you in the next video. I hope this one helped, and implement.